From everything I have come to understand, our unconscious bias is created and reinforced from the outside in, based on messages we learn about groups. But those biases penetrate and then drive our feelings and our behavior. So to rid ourselves and our work of bias, we have to work from the inside out. This means we need to understand the impact bias has on us, how it drives our behavior, how to stop it in its tracks, and ideally how to reverse engineer it out of our minds altogether. So let's look at an example. Let's say I, as a woman, a small woman, am walking alone at night. It's quiet, there's no one else on the street, and suddenly I notice someone walking behind me. In nanoseconds, my body will look for information to assess the level of danger. The first place it will look is for demographic information about the person behind me. And whatever demographics it finds will impact my sense of danger or safety. The person's gender, race, religious symbols, age, how expensive their clothes are. Each of these will process as danger or safety to my mind, my body, and my emotions. If my body decides that the person is a danger based on their demographics, my heart rate will quicken, my breathing will get shorter, my muscles will tighten, my senses will be on alert, and I will feel scared, maybe even panicked. The feelings will be so strong that I will be convinced that since I feel scared, I am therefore in danger. But none of the demographic information my mind collects is evidence of the actual situation. Real evidence would be if the person is leering at me or if they're chatting away on their phone, if they follow me when I cross the street or if they ignore me. But when we feel scared, we are entirely convinced that we are in danger, even if we're not, or the converse. Our unconscious bias lives in the same part of our minds where our instincts for survival are, where our emotions are, and where our vagus nerve is seated. This means that our biases often erroneously drive our body's sense of danger or safety. And we will feel it acutely. This was a good thing when humans were at risk of attacks from other tribes on our villages, but our bodies have not evolved at the same pace as our modern society, so we get tripped up very easily. For us today, it's not just about fear of physical attack. The spectrum of safety and danger has many subtle shades in the middle, including our sense of what's right, what's proper, how we're seen by others. When something happens that's at odds with what we expect or what we think should be, the unsettling feeling that so often comes is on that spectrum. When we feel annoyed, when we feel smarter than or not as smart as, when we feel righteous, when we criticize, when we blame, all of these are places where our sense of should comes up against our own sense of what feels normal and safe. It also happens when we perceive threats to our systems. As public servants, we run many foundational systems like education, healthcare, justice, economics. These systems are designed to keep us safe, to keep society safe, but they don't keep everyone safe. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because our systems were created with bias and still have biases in them, yet there's so much fear to changing them that it keeps systemic biases in place, which actually means our systems are not as safe as they're meant to be. Our biases drive our feelings that then drive our behavior. When this process happens about the groups we're trying to serve in our policies, programs, and services, we can get into real trouble because we often design for how we think people should behave or for our own groups, but we miss large swaths of the public and thus miss the mark. This can come out in who we consult with, whose experience we use as models, whose advice we take, who we believe, who we trust. Our feelings, emotions, and body sensations are not accurate information about what's happening outside of us, as convincing as they may be. They are indicators of something happening inside of us. And this is where the opportunity is. This is where we can stop bias in its tracks. We can't control our feelings, but we can develop the awareness and the skill to recognize this process and to choose to act differently. I like Dolly Chug's terms when she talks about the difference between being believers and being builders. We can all nod our heads and say, yes, bias really messes things up. But to become builders, we need to be willing to do things differently on purpose. And that's not easy. Usually we distance ourselves from our failings. But here, as Verna Meyer says, we have to walk toward our biases. We have to hold them up to the light of day. In our work, there are many things we can do in this direction. One, diversify our stakeholders. It's often the voices that don't have platforms that enable more robust thinking. Two, diversify our consultants. We need consultants that bring intelligence from the margins. Three, design for the edges. If we design for the margins, we can adapt for the center, but it doesn't work the other way around. Four, of course, we have to talk about data. Demographic data enables us to pinpoint where bias has steered our work off course and gives us a chance to correct it. Five, as Jennifer Eberhardt says, add friction to slow things down. We have to slow our processes so that we don't rely on our defaults and instead ensure we're using a breadth of evidence to guide our work. And lastly, we have to want to know our biases and we have to keep choosing to walk toward them. It means we have to reach for relationships across lines of difference, especially with our colleagues. We have to be willing to make mistakes and stick around to clean them up. It means we have to step toward discomfort and even fear to learn the experiences of others. We have to want to uncover the biases we have and put effort into doing something to shift them.